Welcome to episode 27, the transfer window news special.
I want an actual news broadcast to copy that audio and play that when there's breaking news.
Yes, this is in fact Talkin Carball. We are back with is this a, I guess this counts as our second off-season episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is
kind of. One was more of a world recap,
mm-hmm.
and then we had our player rankings, and then we had a week off, and now we have this.
Yeah, I count it all. But a well-used week off, because if we had talked about anything last week, none of it would have come true, because pretty much every transfer rumor that existed more than like 3 days ago pretty much was completely debunked. So we have all sorts of stuff to get into today. So do the things, follow the socials, the Twitters, join the Discords. I don't know, Colin, you just want to sink our teeth into this?
Yeah, I do want to apologize to our fans though, for missing last week. I was getting some hate this week from one fan, Crazy Monkey. We played 6 man together, and he was just absolutely yelling at me. He's like, "Why isn't there an episode?" And then we proceeded to lose two games.
Hey, that's free promo to at least one other person.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Oh man.
But we don't have any news this week because the entire episode is news. So we are going to be playing an old game, one that the OGs all remember, which is, I'm pretty sure, everyone who listens to this. But it's going to be reworked from the original version. We're bringing it back to Stonks and Stinks.
Mm-hmm.
Now the original one was we picked one team to give Stonks and one team to give Stinks. Now we're just going to give every single roster move a Stonk or a Stink, depending on if we think the team will do better or worse.
Yes. Do we have I feel like at one point we created something for like not like changing it at all.
It was
staying.
I don't know.
Still stationary. Dust. Do you look and I will? I mean, you start talking and I'll find it, because there
don't find it. I
okay.
I don't think that word exists. I think you're trying to come up with a word that is not real.
Stonks, stinks.
All right.
Yeah.
We are gonna go region by region, starting with good old North America, where we had a lot of movement in the bubble scene, not a lot of movement at the top of the standings. But let's get into it with Pittsburgh Knights, who didn't make a regional last split, but are looking to make some this split, with the addition of J. Ross and Cheese replacing Omar and Alpha Cap. What do you think about
so
this?
you okay, you're gonna give me first dibs. Yeah. I'm gonna dub this Stonks, because considering PK's expectations, hard for them to do much worse. And B, I always thought that J. Russ was an extremely talented player. And I think just in terms of, I don't know. It's hard to say, because Omar and Alpha Cup are both like very solid too. The more I talk about it, the more this isn't really Stonks. This is just kind of the same.
I'm gonna give it Stonks.
Okay, tell me.
They added, Cheese made a original last split. I think that's a plus for him.
Mm-hmm.
I think J. Russ is good. He was on that Sonics team in RLCS X that was pretty solid in the fall. Mm-hmm. Very mechanical, and obviously Sosa's. I think we're both pretty high on him although he hasn't quite reached the potential we would have thought. But I think this is an upgrade. Um,
One thing to add about J Russ too is pretty much every event that he's played in since coming back, he's been like top 3 octane rating. Um, Dude has been absolutely pounding, and he's one of those players that just has an absolute flip reset button. If you watch him play ones, it's terrifying. And so when I was leaning towards Stonks, that's what I was going for. But so did PK make one regional this past split, or did they make 0?
I don't think they made any.
Okay, so I think that this team will make at least one regional. I could see it potentially being more. I think that they do have like class above a lot of bubble teams. So yeah, I'll hop on the Stonks train.
I was gonna say something and then I completely forgot what it was.
Not important when you're podcasting.
No, no. Um, it's something to do with J. Russ, and now I don't remember. Um, team improved. Well, kind of stonks. Yes,
Kind of
yes.
Stonks. Yes. Massive.
Uh, moving on until for the next 5 minutes until I remember what I was gonna say, and I bring it back completely
Yeah.
off topic. We had Ghost making what I'm gonna dub a stonk, bringing in
Mhm.
Hoxer in place of the retiring Roldiz.
What's stonking about this move?
I think Hoxer is a solid player. I know that he has been absolutely grinding twos with Shock and
Mhm.
I think Lion Blaze, so they're getting their chemistry up. I mean, Ghost really can't do worse than they did last play.
Yeah.
Oh, I remember what I was gonna say about J-Raz.
Okay.
He's got the coming back from retirement buff, just like Roldiz had when he came out of retirement for Sonics.
The Sonic's legacy. I mean, T-Curl is also known for nearly giving up the game and coming back, the T-Curl cycle.
Yes.
But jumping back in with Ghost, I'm gonna sort of similar to the last one. I'm gonna give this a light stonking because once again, I come to look at this Ghost roster and I'm still slightly confused because I really think they sort of needed that nice edge player to sort of like break open the defense. I still like as talented as Lion Blaze is, I don't think that's him. And I think Hoxer's like best attribute is his passing and creativity. And the problem still sort of remains who's going to be the one putting it in the net.
Yeah, it's certainly a concern for the squad,
Mhm.
but I think they will be very solid defensively. And maybe they can get those counterattack goals.
Yeah. Stonks or stinks compared to their fall run.
They were pretty good in the fall.
Yeah.
Let me check what they actually did in the fall.
Because I
Oh,
agree, stonks, because I think that they're, I mean, like you said, they literally couldn't have done worse in the winter, but fall they were like a top 8 team.
let's see.
And
They got 9th, 11th. Then they got top 8. Then they got top 8. I think they could return to that form. That's not anything
I
crazy that I don't think they couldn't reach.
so I mean there are 2 top 8 finishes, correct?
Yes.
And then one ninth to 11th.
Yes.
I think that it's a far off shot that they even get one top 8. But I could see them slotting into that ninth, 11th twice. Because you think about now, like I really feel like the top 5 is pretty much like locked in, right? Like
Yeah.
you have um Space Station, G2, Energy, Phase, and V1 are
Yeah.
sort of like at a bit of a class above. And then you start to think about the tier 2, and you have Complexity, Rogue, Envy, New
Oxygen.
Exet, Oxygen, and
Yeah.
I really think that all those teams just listed are all. I would not put Ghost in the same tier as those teams.
I think they're close though. I
Hmm.
don't think they're far off. Like I think they could beat if they're playing well, they could beat those teams any given day. Not that they're going to beat them more often than not, but they can beat them.
Hmm. So you would put them sort of like at the bottom of that tier.
Maybe like around like 10th ish.
Hmm. Yeah. See, I would put them at like the very top of sort of like the third cut or the third
Yeah,
tier in NA. And that is not a top 8 finish.
it's not. So I guess stonks, but from fall stinks.
Yeah. And that's mainly just because they overperformed like heck in the fall.
Yes,
Like that
yes,
that
that's
that
true.
that roster like had no not no right, but on paper no right of being a top 8 team in North America.
Yeah. Moving on, we have Jordan is replacing Rapid on Shopify Rebellion. I'm gonna go with stinks.
Yeah. I think I'm going to join you on that mainly because I actually don't know what Shopify's identity is anymore without beast mode and rapid.
I don't either. Now the roster's Memory, Parth, and Jordan. And Jordan's name isn't even Jordan. Jordan's name is Daniel.
Good name to have in Rocket League though.
Yeah, but it's I I if you look at that Shopify roster that was really good of Memory, Beast Mode, and Rapid. Memory was, forgive the pun, the least memorable person on that team. And now he's like the only one left. And they've been surrounded by, I think, less talented players.
Yeah, that's not even like a harsh statement.
Yeah,
Partially because the other two are immense talents, but like I think that Jordan is an extremely solid like player who, very much can play like in sort of the tier 2 and 3 in NA, but he's not going to sort of move the pulse in the way that Rapid did and not even close to beast mode.
yeah,
But I have heard I haven't gotten to see too much of Parth just because they didn't make it too deep into too many events, and there's only so much Rocket League you can sort of watch during the group stage. Um, but I have heard very good things about Parth, and they put up a respectable split in the winter. So I think that this team is going to be in regionals, but I don't know if they're gonna do as well as they even did in the winter. So it stinks for
yeah.
me.
Definitely will be better than what they did in the fall. But
Yeah.
um,
IRL sports, baby.
yes. Yeah, stinks for Shopify Rebellion. Now continuing with Rapid. Rapid has moved on to Xset to replace the departing Hoxer.
Hmm.
All the and it like 8th to 12th teams just traded people around. Um,
Yep.
I think this is stonks.
Hmm. Why?
I think Rapid is very good. I think let's see. The new rosters J-Pow, Percy, and Rapid.
Hmm.
I think they can score some goals.
Yeah.
Whether the defense will be good enough to like uh be able to like compete with the best of the best, I don't think so. But
Hmm.
I think they'll be able to put the ball in the net.
Yeah. I think the message I sent to you when this got announced or even just teased was like rest in peace to like all of NA's backboards because this team just like in terms of their double taps is just like absolutely ridiculous. And just in terms of their like overall like firepower, like this is very much a damaged team. And when you have a team with just like three high octane offensive players, there's always a chance that everything clicks and you get a queso story. You know, that's
Yeah.
probably one in a million, but that's the dream anyway. Um, but the other like 99 times out of 100, you get a middling team that doesn't really have a play style or an identity, but just more so three individuals. And I think that that's probably more likely, but I still think it's sort of stonks just because in the step up in talent.
Yeah. I mean, they could definitely be a team that gets two bottom fours and then pulls off a top six.
Mm-hmm.
That they just like peak one regional or something. Um, I don't see them at LAN,
No.
but I could see them in the top 8.
Yeah, they will rep the set well, which is all you can really ask.
Rep the set. All right, and then the final move of this little bubble flipping of players is Jordan is being replaced on Torrent by Zanil of RBG. I think he was on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um,
See, this is where I need a third moniker.
meh.
Static.
Static.
Static. Because I think although Jordan is probably certainly a more accomplished and probably a better player than Zanil, I think Torrent had kind of hit their ceiling. And I think that maybe just like bringing in someone fresh will be nice, but I don't think Zanil is going to be the person that sort of takes them to that top 8 echelon that they want to fight for.
Yeah. I do like Zanil. I think he's a good player. He's pretty young. I think he's only like 16 or something.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we'll see. I think Torrent will kind of stay in the same range that they were in last split.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I mean by static, where it is like
Yeah.
it could be a positive change, like maybe even just in vibes and just the fact that they needed to change, but it's not like Zanil is a class above Jordan by any means.
Um.
Oh God.
The next move we have, Lan Lucian is back. He is stepping into the active role for Team Envy. Turbo is moving into the substitute role.
This is like the most esports thing I've ever seen. I actually can't wrap my brain around this.
This does not solve their issues in my mind.
No.
It might be better. It might be worse. It might be the exact same. It doesn't solve their big issue. It's that it's still a team of third men.
Yeah. And yeah, I don't know. The only thing I can think of this potentially making better is sort of like vibes and maybe mental. Um, but in terms of play, I think you're 100% right. And actually, this move right here is why we need a static.
Yes. Although Team Envy swung for the fences and tried to make something happen that would have shaken the Rocket League universe to its core and would have been an improvement.
Oh my
And
god.
they tried to sign Mark by 8.
Oh my god.
They had agreed on a price with VDS. According to Shift, they'd agreed on a price for the buyout, but they couldn't figure out everything else in time with like probably like visas and moving to the US. But that would have been
Oh,
nuts.
Colin teased a Mark leak for me before the episode, and when he started talking, I was like, "No way." Oh, dude, that would have been sick.
Yeah.
He still doesn't speak English, but that doesn't solve Mark's problem that he be on another team that he can't communicate to the other players in. But oh my
but
god.
But Mark by 8 and missed on the same team. Oh my.
Yeah, with Drees like anchoring, that team would actually pound. That would shake up NA in a way that it did not get shaken this offseason.
Yeah. Would have been
Oh,
only what the third ever cross regional move.
yeah. Drip A, Turbo,
Uh
Mark.
yeah. I guess complexity, but they
Oh,
kind of moved
true.
as a team.
Yeah. Oh
But
man.
that would have been nuts. That would have been instant stonks.
Instant stonks, way hyper than taking your coach and replacing him with a very similar caliber player. And it's like the other thing is too, like it's like, oh, like Alu hype, like you're bringing in someone who's good on land. It's Turbo. Like that's not even an up there.
Yeah. I don't think they're gonna make land, so it doesn't really matter.
No, but they will probably be in that 6 to 10 spot.
Yeah. Um yeah. It would have been such a fun move to have Mark, but instead we have possibly a very boring team of Illusion missed injuries. Our last NA move that we have written down is Blaze, J, and Hockey combined to form Prestige Esports. Maybe they'll make a regional, maybe they won't.
Mm-hmm.
There's probably a bunch of other moves in that range of we'll see them one time, but yeah,
Yeah, most notable thing about there is the first time we've seen Blaze return to a formal roster since leaving Integrity. So slight hype there.
yeah. And Hockey's an established bubble player who's been in a couple regionals, I think.
Hmm. Yeah, I think also has done a lot of stuff in CRL, unless I'm getting
Yes.
confused.
Who knows?
Yeah, no, I'm
Too
getting
much.
confused. Just disregard, disregard, disregard.
Um, Moving across the pond to Europe, where we had chaos, but not as much as what was advertised.
Hmm.
Let's just get into it. First off, we have Nolly going to Carmine Corp, replacing Steak. What do you think?
So I am happy to see that Carmine are making a change. I have made my thoughts known on what I thought about that team as a unit, and literally any bringing in me would have been a positive move. But uh so stonks in that, do I think, because I mean Carmine, realistically they've been on the edge but not really, like they've been on the edge of making both majors but it's never felt like they were going. And
Yeah.
so if you think about the move that they're trying to make is bring in a player who can sort of like make them fight with the best of the best. I really can't, it's hard for me to understand how Nolly is going to fit into this team.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure on that. I don't know if you read Steak's twit longer,
Mhm.
but he was actually very honest about the whole transfer window process. Um, Basically, they tried out a player instead of Steak,
Mhm.
which is rumored to be Chaussette, I think.
Mhm.
Uh, and then that didn't work out. So then they tried a player with Itachi and Steak, but he was unable to join due to buyout issues, which I assume was Mark.
Mhm.
And then I guess at the like last second they chose to go with Nolly instead of Steak. So kind of I think a chaotic process. They kind of wanted a change. I don't know if this is the exact change they wanted to go with. We'll see how it works out. The language barrier and everything. Um,
Yeah, I think Nolly actually can play a very solid third man, and what Casey sort of like need more than anything is someone to just put the ball in the net. Um, in their first showing as a team, I think that still was a massive problem, and I think that I can't remember what the event was called, but even like they publicly, like the players cited that shooting was a massive problem. So hopefully they can sort of figure that out because I mean when Nolly's on, he is money, but they just need someone who's going to put away chances. It's not exactly the sort of change that I wanted to see, just sort of like swapping third man for third man. But it could. I think they'll probably be in a similar spot, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah, they could compete for those like last couple major spots, I think. Did you know what tournament it was that they played in?
It had
I'll have to look at that.
it had a weird name. Um, it was the RTBF
XP Online 1,
XP Online one. Yeah, and
Caliente, Zen, Sizen, and Exotic won it.
yeah, an absolutely cracked
Interesting.
pickup team. But both Vitality and Carmine played in this event, and they both lost to cracked pickup teams. One of an all French roster that Colin just named, and the other that um
All Dutch roster that we'll get into in a little bit.
yeah. Um and there's also an insane Spanish pickup team. But yeah, I don't remember what we were talking about.
uh, I don't either.
Yeah,
Nolly's on Carmine now.
yeah, yeah. Nolly is on card.
We're giving that a static / meh,
Yeah,
I think.
I'm giving it stonks just because I wanted to see a change.
Okay, all right.
I would have banged my head into a wall if they didn't change.
Following Stake, he moves to Williams in place of Rodosin. Another roster where he's with two French-speaking players as a Spanish-speaking person. An interesting combo that has historically worked, I guess, with BDS.
Mm-hmm. True.
But I don't know how this will work for Williams. You can speak more to how Williams works than I can.
So this move hurt me on a deep level. Not because
Was it
Stake's a bad
Stake in
player.
or Rodosin out that hurt you?
No, neither of those things. This has nothing to do with the players. It's just that Prime tweeted, "Oh well, this is the first time I've ever tried a team without ever trialing the player. Let's see how it goes." And my god, what I like so what I can only guess is that Williams went through trials because they've known for what seemed to be, at least the public knew for a pretty long time, that Radosin would be leaving, right?
Yeah.
They had time to trial players, and I guess I don't know if like none of those went well or what, or they were just sort of like sitting just being like, oh crap, like I don't know what we're gonna do. And then when you take Stakes twit longer into account, where it's like Stakes availability only became free probably pretty close to the last minute. And Williams are just like, ah, crap, let's just do this. Like,
Yeah.
that is not the mentality you want to be moving into a new roster with.
It did not work for Envy. I can tell you that.
Exactly. I would rather pick up a player that you went through trials with that was meh than an all-star that you've just never played with. I just don't think that's a recipe for success.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna throw out a theory here with
Mm-hmm.
almost no basis. I think Williams was targeting Exotic to replace
Yep.
Radosin, and I think he got yoinked by Semper.
Yeah.
And then they
That's
were left with a rostered spot and didn't know what to do.
which hurts because that would have been. I think that I would actually be stonking this roster even with the loss of Radosin if they had gotten exotic. And God, that just hurts to think about. Like I said, it has nothing to do with stake and just everything to do with the fact of just like having to scrap around and pick up what's left. And I guess, like, to be honest, considering that like probably being the fact, like Stake is a very good player, but for that reason alone, I think I have to stink this.
I'll tail the stink, just because I don't know what I'm talking about, and I'll just follow you. Following Radosin, he moves to Vitality, and Fairy Peak moves to the sub spot. I'm gonna go Stonk.
Yeah, Stonk for slightly similar reasons to KC, where a change was just desperately needed, and I think that Rudosin will be an injection of pace and mechanics that this team kind of needed.
Yeah, this team could not have done much worse last split,
Mm-hmm.
considering the like caliber of organization and their expectations in Rocket League. Something needed to happen. They also brought in Farah as a coach, but I think this should be an improvement. I think they'll be back to competing for LAN, which they really weren't last split. Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say I still think this is, you're right, like sort of like a bubble land team, but then again, I literally like so much changed in Europe. It's hard for me to form like an actual picture in my mind of like what the standings could even look like.
Well, only one of the LAN teams made a move.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see how the other four. Actually, two of the LAN teams made a move.
BDS
Yes,
and Endpoint.
yes, it's the same player.
Mm-hmm.
um, I don't know. Assume Queso will still be there. Uh, EG will be, I think, in a similar spot, competing till the last second, and then Dig, I think, will be there.
Yeah. Even other team's gonna be there.
Don't say it.
Guild Gang, baby.
So yeah, Guild picks up Dorito in place of Nolly. In their quest to become more Spanish. It looked like they went after Mark. I think there were a few too many zeros on the buyout, and so they went for Dorito instead. This is White Demons with Devo in place of Tigray, correct?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Which I think is an
And
upgrade on White Demons.
yeah, I think that this roster has like very much the potential to work. Like, I really to sort of elaborate on, I really liked the original White Demons roster, and like you just said, I think that Devo is a step up on Tigray, especially like when you think about just like third man ability. Devo is still extremely solid in that role, and ever since Dorito and CRR broke up, no one has really been able to sort of like. Sounds like there's a lot of out of the server issues with Dorito. No one's really been able to calm that down other than CRR. So bringing those two back together, like when they were on White Demons together, they just made absolute magic. And the trajectory that Guild were going on at the end of the split, and CRR like really has the potential to step up to like, you know, top 10 players like in Europe and maybe even beyond. So I'm really high on this roster.
Yeah, I do want to criticize Guild as an organization, though.
Mm-hmm.
How are you gonna let your player find out he's being dropped by a shift tweet?
Yeah, that's bad.
You can't let that happen.
That's really,
A player that's been there for a decently long time.
yeah. Thankfully, he got himself on a well salaried roster, but he could have like, I mean it's hard, it's bleh. It is easy to forget that these are like, this is these guys' livelihood, and no one should ever lose their job in that fashion.
Yeah. Imagine you just like, I don't know how many of our listeners have jobs, but imagine you're just on Twitter and your employer just tweeted out that you got fired or like kicked out of school. Like
Suck
your
it, listener.
college just like, we're sorry to announce that Colin has been kicked out of college.
Oh my god.
Ooh,
Spotify doesn't
that
have
would
employed statistics to give me.
oh, that would not be good, and that's not a good look for Guild. David Beckham, get your boys in order.
Oh yeah, I've heard from the streets that David Beckham has a real hands-on approach to Guild. He's got a deep love of esports.
Yes. Um, so we mentioned this earlier. Exotic is moving to Semper, in what we think was a yoinking from Williams, to make an all French roster. I'm gonna give it stinks just because you can't really replace Archie.
Yeah, but I think I'll give it stinks too. But how do you think they can do compared to their winter performance? So I think if you compare it to the fall and when Archie was at his peak and this team was looking good, there's not a shot. But I think that
Yeah.
they can do at least as well as they did in the winter, actually.
I mean, in the winter they got 9th, 12th in all three events.
Yeah.
So in theory, they should definitely be able to do better than that, and they should have been able to do better than that last split as well. But I think they were underperforming a little bit, and if they played what they can do, I don't know if they'll be a LAN team, but
Mhm.
they can be solid. And what's what are the current standings? Can they hold on to their world spot? Is I guess the real question.
I think there's still a pretty huge gap, just off the top of my head. But the also other exciting thing about this is for what feels like the longest time, like pre-RLCX, pre-RLCSX, and like the breakout of like Jack and Jory's and everyone, Exotic has been like the talk of the town from EU ranked. Like this guy is I can't believe I still see stuff on Reddit about him when he literally hasn't like when was the last time he was even making regionals?
I don't
Um
know.
but this is like the first like real established roster he's had a shot on, and I am excited to see that, especially with two veterans and sort of filling like the role of Archie, who is a player who's given an immense amount of space. So I think that he can do some damage, and that's much like it was last split. Like that's their win condition is him popping off.
Yeah. It's definitely like big shoes to fill. He won't fill them completely, but I don't think they'll fall off of his feet, if that makes any sense.
Great metaphor, honestly.
Thank you. Thank you. Good with the words.
Good with the words. Question:
Yes, go for it.
Does that apply to the next move?
The next one is an interesting one because we're replacing a superstar with a superstarish, right?
Yeah.
I don't. I think Seiko is better than Archie. I do really like Archie though. I do think this endpoint team is still going to be competitive. Um, I don't know if he can fully like Seiko was the offense for that team, and I don't know if Archie is the same type of player to be able to like fully carry the offense on a squad.
Hmm. See, that's a very correct statement. But Archie is also the player to carry every single part
True.
of your team.
True.
But for that to really work, you need your other players to sort of step up and fill like for endpoint to reach the same level of offense. Like Archie is not gonna he'll elevate all parts, but he's not gonna elevate specifically the offense in the same way that Seiko is. So one of Wave and Metza is probably gonna need to step up and claim that space. And who's that gonna be?
I have more faith in Wave pulling it off, I think.
Yeah,
Definitely going to require a step up from the other two. I think they have the ability to do it. I think they can make a land. When you lose Seiko, Archie's about the best bet you can do to pull someone in to fill that hole.
for
And
sure.
props to Endpoint. Now this is technically a loan,
Hmm.
which is interesting. Archie is still technically like his rights are still owned by Semper.
Hmm.
So at the end of like after Worlds, he's technically still a Semper player and he would need to be bought out to go to a different team.
Hmm.
Um very, very interesting situation there.
Yeah. I think like even in terms, I mean, like this cements like an English core in the roster, and I mean Metza is extremely comfortable speaking English as most Norwegians are. Not Norwegians, I meant to say Scandinavians. I was trying to generalize. uh, so yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I think that what you said, like in terms of this team, should very much like be in a land spot, but once again, I struggle to see this team doing better than top 8 in the world. Just kind of look
I'd
like
agree.
what they'd be hoping to do. But I think honestly, they probably weren't really looking to make a change, and were more so reacting to Seiko leaving. And this is about as good as you could do.
Yeah. And I'm looking at the points right now. They're currently sitting in a world spot. They have set like a 700 point lead over Evil Geniuses. As long as they don't fall on their face, I think they'll be at Worlds.
Hmm. Which they shouldn't, and they hopefully won't, because this still
Yes.
is a very fun and likable team. The
Yes.
Bosch father.
The Bosch father. Um, Moving on to the biggest move of the off season. BDS, I'm not even going to qualify what BDS is. Everyone knows what BDS is. Has moved Mark to the bench spot and brought in Seiko to fill it, making an all French roster just stacked with talent. Nuts.
Yeah, this is. I mean, this is like the. It's hard now that we have hindsight, but this is like the typical to phase move, right?
Yeah.
Where it's like you're just doing like a fantasy draft or something like, or you're just doing like a thought experiment of your head, like what is like the three, like what's the most cracked team you could make, and this is pretty darn close like what you would come up with.
This would be like if France was doing a World Cup,
Yep.
or you're doing like a World Cup and you have to make a France team, and you're like, all right, let's take the core of BDS and replace Mark with the best French player we can find. Oh, Seiko. There we go.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. And like the other person you'd probably consider would be Vatira, which BDS also trialed. So it's it's just ridiculous to think about.
Yeah. I think this team is gonna be good. Is it a stonk or a stink? It's hard to give it a stonk, to be honest, because it's BDS and did they even finish outside the top two? I guess they didn't finish outside the top four
Hmm.
at any regional. Um, they obviously didn't do as well as they wanted to do at LAN,
Hmm.
but they won the first LAN. So it's like, can they do better?
Yeah.
Can you in good faith give it stonk?
So here's my question for you. Um, the problem with BDS and RLCS3 has never been the ceiling. That ceiling still exists where they look like the absolute best team in the world, but they've
Yeah,
lost their stability. Do you think that this move will help with that?
I think so. Mark was probably the most inconsistent player on that BDS team.
Mm-hmm.
Seiko's not necessarily the most consistent player in the world. We saw him completely disappear against Furia at LAN. I don't think he
Mm-hmm.
scored a single goal. But I do think it should help the team vibes of being all French. I think it does help their consistency.
Yeah. And I would agree so too. And so this isn't like a stonks and saying that like this three at their best is better than the old three at their best. But I do think that this team will probably like if you look at their average like output of points across all the winter, I think that this team will do better.
Yeah, I could see that. I'm just looking at the Team BDS page on Wikipedia, and 2 months ago, BDS signed a 2-year deal with Monkey, Mark, and Extra. So Mark is on a 2-year deal with BDS that they have to pay for unless he gets bought out.
Yeah, and that probably explains why he didn't get moved anywhere else. And the
Yeah.
only team that could potentially afford that would be like some of the big teams in NA.
Yeah.
And Envy would be the only person looking for that. So he a cross regional move might be his only option. Just crazy to think about.
Yeah. You know what would be interesting?
Mm-hmm.
What if Complexity made a move?
Go on.
Just to, keep the language the same.
Uh-huh.
Mark with the what Chilean and Argentinian boys.
That would be wild to think about. And I think if Complexity don't do well in the spring, they should honestly consider that because Mark is way too good of a player to be rotting on the bench.
Shad
Way too good.
Raisebowl marked by 8.
Rip AJG.
Sorry.
Yeah. Absolute insanity.
Just a theory.
For like a hot second, it looked like Europe was gonna like there were gonna be several teams like well, it looked like there was the potential queso move of like Vatira to BDS, which would have sort of like I think I would be equally big on BDS if they had gotten Vatira and Seiko. Would you agree?
I would be a BDS hater for
Yeah.
eternity.
But I'm just asking you to think about like how good that roster
I
would be.
think their roster would still be insanely good, and I think would be favorites to be the best in Europe, especially with Queso being nerfed.
Yeah. But I think that this feels like the only massive like it felt like for a second there was going to be a massive shakeup at the top of Europe, and I think this sort of ended up being the only thing that happened, especially with Mark not going anywhere.
Yeah, Mark not going anywhere. It really came down to Seiko to BDS, and then Archie filling his spot at endpoint with the moves at the top of those like LAN teams. Whereas after the first LAN, FaZe made a move, Space Station made a move, G2 made a move, Envy made a move. It was like all the top teams changed, whereas in Europe it was really only like 2.
Yeah, and like 3 of those were like next level upgrades, which I guess
Yeah.
like partially came from the fact that like Daniel came into like eligibility and beast mode returned. So
Yeah.
I guess the only way that could really happen, like that you can sort of like create a wave, is like new talent entering the scene, which obviously isn't something you really have control over as a GM.
Yeah. But that's our like big moves in Europe. We have a couple other smaller ones. Speed has replaced Cuxer on Cuxer's minions. Naturally, they changed their team name to they're now the Pokemaniacs.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I don't know if this is any better.
No,
Who's on Rick's now? Does Rick's have a team? Oh, Rick's dropped their team, didn't they?
Rick's
Yeah,
dropped their team. Uh, was Mike Boy still on that roster?
it was Mike Boy, Ocelon, and Speed.
Okay, and yeah, Mike Boy is. We're about to talk about him in like 5 seconds. So yeah, Rick's is dead. But yeah, this team is uh going to be very, 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 very similar to the legacy of Cookser's minions, but probably not going to make all 3 regionals.
Yeah,
Honestly, super impressive that they did that.
yeah,
Never got
very
signed.
impressive. They almost got signed, apparently.
Mm-hmm.
Coxer's new team. He's teaming with his Italian brethren. of Dead Monster and Devoof as the e-girl hunters.
According to the Twitter poll.
Yeah, according to the Twitter poll, we'll see if that's what they actually name. I'm sad it's not Arju instead of Devoof, but it's probably good for. Misfits could have made a move, but I don't know what they would have done. So
Yeah, I mean it was radio silence on that end by the sounds of it, so it looks like they didn't want to.
Yeah, heard nothing. Heroic made an interesting move. They dropped Oli and picked up Noah Saki, a British person. I'm pulling up his Wikipedia page right now. He's 16 years old. Previously played for the Giga Guys with some people I've never heard of.
You know, the last time Violent Panda and Yukio on a team coached by Verge picked up a relatively unknown but very talented player that they were excited about, things ended up pretty well because that was Astral. And when the tweets came out, I was like, you know, like this is kind of crazy. And then I remembered that they didn't qualify for a single event in the winter, and the hype kind of died instantly.
Yeah. You know, we'll see if they make an event this time.
Yeah.
And then Oli also teamed up with his Dutch friends of Tho and Mike Boy as Suh, and they're the ones that beat Vitality in that tournament we were talking about earlier.
Also pretty sure that for the Intel World Open, they got like top 2 in Western Europe or finished like extremely high. So
we love a good single nation team.
we love nationalism in Rocket League.
Yes.
But in terms of like chemistry, it is cool, and who knows how much of this is true, but it seemed that a big issue for BDS this season was sort of like regaining their mental when there wasn't a common language to speak. So I think there is some truth to it.
Yeah. Everyone is going to be more comfortable speaking in their own language when you are able to focus on Rocket League and not focus on what you're trying to say while playing. It could definitely help.
Yeah. And it's like one thing too, if all 3 players, like it may not be their native language, but they're all comfortable speaking English, versus like not even having English in common.
Yeah. I mean, like when you look at Endpoint, pretty sure Matsunoris is pretty comfortable in English. I don't know if he's ever had Finnish teammates. Does anyone speak Finnish?
Yeah. If you want to make it in esports out of Scandinavia, you got to have some good English.
Yeah.
CSGO fans are actually fuming at me, but that's okay.
Who cares about them? Game's like 12 years old. More. It's like older than me. Moving on to some minor region things. Over in Down Under, we have Hawk is replacing Walcott on the Direwolves. If you don't know Hawk, he is apparently a stats lord, right? He just leads every Octane stat ever.
Pretty much. Picture like Archie level of poundage in the fall, but just always playing on a team that was pretty well outside like the top 4 in OCE. And so, well, like sort of like if you consider him to sort of like being on the bubble of like making it to the top level of OCU, and Direwolves sort of like always being on the outside looking in of qualifying for these majors, I think that this is a match made in heaven, and I am super, super excited.
Yeah, it should be good. Definitely bumps Direwolves up. They're, I think, the 4th best team in OCE this split. And I think they'll stay in that top 4 and push for that push for one of those 2 land spots.
Yeah, and considering how boring OCE was in terms of competition for all of our LCSX, just being absolutely dominated by Ground Zero, pretty hype. That region is definitely like all boats are rising.
Yeah.
4 teams better than 2 good teams.
I'm looking at Octane right now. So Hawk led in Octane rating, score per game, goals, and was 3rd in saves per game, and
Yeah.
2nd in shot percentage, with the 2nd most shots.
You have to go back to September.
1st in goal participation.
You have to go back to September 16th, 2020. Was the last time he had below a 1.0 octane rating across an event. And you have to go back like even to November 6th is the last time he had less than 1.1. Which is just absolutely crazy. And in the fall especially, he was just ridiculous. Like if you're ever like recapping like OC or just trying to get like a general vibe for things, he just always stands out. So excited to see him on a top tier roster.
Yeah, he was on the Juice Bandits roster.
Mm-hmm.
I've lost my Wikipedia page. Let's see. They were. Where are they at? Oh, this is confusing. What am I? Am I in Arls? I'm trying to find where they are in the stats.
You're getting lost in the sauce there. You're gonna find a whole lot of 5th through 8th.
I was trying to look at the total standings. But I got thrown off by the number 2 team being Us Are Bad. Forgetting that Ground Zero got dropped.
Yeah.
Oh, they got picked up by Team Blizz. No, someone else got picked. Where? I don't even see Juice Bandits on here.
They disbanded.
They disbanded. Okay. So, yeah. Should be good for Dire. We'll still compete with Renegades. And then our other news were Ground Zero and Riot both got dropped by their orgs. We'll see where they get picked up. Ground Zero is the number 2 team. Riot's the number 5 team. There's rumors that Chiefs are picking up a team, and I don't know what else is going on down there.
Yeah, it'll be exciting to see. Hopefully, Ground Zero can secure a top tier org, because it's very likely that we'll be seeing them at LAN again, just with how they finished off the winter. And any organization listening to us right now should pick them up
and pick us up.
Pick us up. Content creators. We'll have the insert your team hour, where we just talk about your team for an hour. And
that's our entire podcast.
We just focus all of RLCS through whatever your team is doing. It's gonna be really sad if they're not qualifying for events.
Yes. As much as I would love to see Us Are Bad at LAN, I would rather see the Ground Zero boys.
Cloud9.
I don't think Cloud9's going to Australia.
100 Thieves.
Moving on to the Middle East in other organizational moves. I don't think we've talked about this, but maybe we have. Sandrock got dropped, which we might have talked about. And yes, we did talk about that. And they've been picked up by the Falcons, who I guess released their roster. And then the Ultimates also released their roster.
Yeah, so 2 of the top 4 teams in Middle East are now free agents because the Falcons decide, you know what, we'll just upgrade.
Yeah. They are just like, best team available? We'll take them. It looks like the former Falcons are now empty.
Which I think was their team before.
Yes. It's just not an organization. It's just a team.
In other
And
news, I was looking up Falcons on Twitter, and without thinking, I clicked on the Atlanta Falcons, and I read the bio that said "home of the hashtag Dirty Birds." I was like, "This is sicky sports branding." Disregard.
I've never heard the Atlanta Falcons called the Dirty Birds, and I used
That's
to live in Atlanta.
that's their hashtag. they're trying to make
It's
it
not
catch
Rise
on.
Up. It used to be Rise Up.
Dirty Birds.
Interesting. They used to have, I went to a game, this is very off topic. They have Samuel L. Jackson going, Rise Up. It's kind of cool.
Now they can have them saying "Dirty Birds."
Drop a MF in there. And then in APAC, we have the Atlanta Tenders Detonator have dropped fan favorite All Picks and replacing it with Lunatic, and All Picks is going to Hilltop Picnic.
Yeah, similar news line to I think when we covered Maru moving a couple weeks ago, but I love the dispersion of LAN experience talent across APAC just because it's a new experience for them. So even though it's sad to see Detonator, honestly, I was super impressed by their performance. Sad to see that roster break up, but maybe this will level them up.
Yeah, and it looks like Tokyo Verity dropped Kanra, who joined after last split, and replacing him with Sigums, Sigms,
Mm-hmm.
who's American apparently,
Okay.
and 23 years old.
Let's go. We love non-APAC talent.
Yeah, APAC is filled with Americans apparently, or just
Also,
non. Yeah.
other APAC news: Chaotic left Three Rats, and they have picked up a new player, Abs Crazy, who is Indian by the looks of it. And if he competes at the top level, I think that'll be the first time we've seen anyone from India competing at a high level, which would be really exciting.
We love that.
Yeah.
Yes, Sigums is officially on Tokyo Verity.
Okay.
Yes. All right, that is all the roster moves we had. That was a lot of them.
Yeah, but we love an exciting off season, and honestly, the rumors exhaust me, and they make me not want to think about Rocket League. But this is real shit. This makes me super hyped for spring. I no longer sleep.
No sleep.
No sleep.
When is the first spring event?
Tomorrow.
A week from this weekend. Closed
Okay.
qualifiers start this Friday.
Let's go. So we don't even have to do a filler episode next week. We'll actually have Rocket League to talk about.
Yeah. Preview pod. And then we'll have to we're still trying to work out what our predictions are gonna be. But full double elimination tournament coming up. Yeah. Just a quick preview ahead. The teams already locked in North America for the region or for the event are Energy Phase, G2, Complexity, Space Station, ND, V1, and Oxygen. And the teams in the closed qualifier already are Exet, Rogue, Ghost, Sonics, Torrent, Shopify, Charlotte, and Accrue, with 8 spots coming to the open qualifier.
Anything
Peace.
else?
Nah, I'm good.
Best podcast ever.
Oh, yeah. Share us with your friends. Follow us on Twitter and all the other things. Twitch.
All the things.
Discord. If you're a champ and in North America, join the 6-man server. You might run into me, and you can be dragged down by me. Yeah.
You're so bad at closing.
I'm horrible. I don't know what you expect from me. I just keep talking until someone shuts me up.